This could be a big episode for you that could really change the rest of your retirement if you have some big unrealized gains. So if you bought Apple or Nvidia or Tesla early on and you have some really big gains and you're wondering, could I maybe diversify out of this without paying a crazy amount of taxes? Because there's a lot of you out there going, I don't want to sell this because I don't want to pay the taxes on it, but I do recognize the value of the stock could go down by a lot more than what I have to pay in taxes. So when do I think about this? What about the timing? Do I wait until I'm no longer working? Do I only do a little bit because I have a lot of other diversified assets? Do I have only this individual position? I have clients that retire early with only 2.5 million in Microsoft. I know that sounds a little weird because it's like only 2.5 is still a lot. But my point is when it's only in one position, it's scary. So I'm going to walk you through what's called a separately managed account today. Many of you have never heard of this before. There's not a lot of this on the internet that's openly discussed, not because it's super taboo, but it's not applicable to that many people. I find this is not discussed as often as it needs to be, not just in the financial world, but just in the real world where all of you are out here consuming financial information. So if you don't have a big stock with a huge gain on it in a brokerage account, this just might not be the most applicable episode for you. And I'd encourage you to maybe check out a different episode unless you're just all about learning and you want to hear about some things that might be of interest to you because maybe you do buy something in the future and want to understand what could you do about it. So I have my dopey analogies that are going to come in a little bit to help you hopefully understand this in more detail. But let me start by showing you this right here. So you can see this is called a separately managed account. Basically, it's a personalized mutual fund or an ETF. So it's tailored to you. So let's go through this real quick. Then I'll give you my dopey analogy and we'll look at an example. So number one is, do we own any individual securities? Let's assume you own Microsoft and you bought it for $1,000. Now it's worth $500,000. That's me. I own an individual security. Do I have at least $500,000? Yep, I do. Should I pay this fixed cost to own this SMA? Maybe, maybe not though. Maybe it's not worth this 23 basis points. It depends. What about a highly personalized strategy? I mean, who doesn't want that? Now, this is best for accounts with large unrealized gains. That's me. I bought Microsoft, big gain. I'd love to reinvest without selling all my holdings. So not only Microsoft, but Nvidia and Apple. And so can I maybe reinvest without selling everything? So here's the dopey story, but real quick, everything I'm going to go through today for fun, informational, educational purposes only. Please do consult with a financial advisor, tax professional, estate attorney before you execute any of the strategies that I'm talking about today. Please be smart about this. Now, here's the example because I had a client that said, look, I get what it says on the screen here. I know what a mutual fund is. I know what an ETF is. I know a stock, but I've just never heard of this. So do you have any example to help me out? And I said, I do. I said, imagine you checked out at the grocery store with 100 grains of rice, and every grain of rice represents an individual company, an equity. Well, if you were to go check out, number one, they would laugh at you because no one's probably ever done that before. Number two, maybe there'd be some rice that slips through your fingers. Now, I'm just trying to keep it humorous for my client. But the idea here is that's what you're doing when you're owning companies. You're just owning 100 individual grains of rice. So 100 individual grains of rice, well, that's a lot to track. So some of you are like, I only have 5 companies, 5 grains of rice. Well, you can hold that in your hand pretty easily. But some of you are like, no, I have an ETF. I've got VTI, and it's got a ton of different companies. Well, you couldn't hold thousands of companies. Rice would be going off like crazy, right? So what people do is they buy a bag and they put all of the companies, little grains of rice, inside the bag. So now I'm holding a bag with all of this rice, which are basically individual companies. That's what an ETF is, a mutual fund. Now let's talk about a separately managed account, an SMA, because our industry loves fancy acronyms, so we get to feel so smart. So imagine I could go into that bag, somehow pierce it, take some companies out that are not doing well, take it out, get a tax benefit, and seal up the bag. I mean, that'd be like magic, right? I mean, how crazy would that be? What if I could also go put some in that I wanted? What if I could go in and out of that bag and it's my own bag? I could do whatever I want. VTI, that's not your own bag. That's the same bag everyone's in. So you have a bunch of companies, but you own them with everyone else. So if a manager goes and makes some changes there, well, that's going to impact you, even if you don't want those changes, even if that's going to incur tax liability for you. See what I'm saying? So stick with me here. I'm going to walk you through an example right now, but just know if you're hearing this going, this just feels logical. I'd want to learn more. Do you guys do this? This is what we do. Now, this is generally for a lot of our clients north of 5 million plus in assets who go, yeah, this is the level of complexity. I've been looking for something like this in addition to wanting to hire an advisor. That's why we exist. Now, some of you, I will be very transparent and say, you should not hire me. And people will say, why? I just got excited and hit my microphone there. And people say, why? And I'll say, well, it doesn't make sense for you to do it yet. And so it's all about timing when you hire an advisor. And for a lot of you, what I recommend is you start with this. This is an academy. It's just a software with videos. It's a course. I spent a lot of time and effort. If you want to go build your own plan, you can do that with the same tools that I show in all of my videos. You can check this out in the description of this video. Okay, so here's the example. Now, I wrote this out, so I'm going to explain it to you guys, but you're going to see it on my screen here, okay? So here's the exact sample that I showed my client. I'm changing the names of the companies, so there's no security stuff, and my client didn't want me to use the exact companies, so here we go. So part of when we determine if this SMA is needed, that custom bag of rice, we have to pay 23 basis points, 0.23%, to have this bag of rice. So some of you, like, you don't need that. Like, it's just, you don't need that level of, like, I don't need a custom water bottle, okay? I'm good with my Awala water bottle. But some of you are like, no, I need, a certain pill, and I need to go to a compound pharmacy because my needs are complex. So it depends. So I'm going to give you a few examples. Let's hop right in. Imagine you have a portfolio with $5 million. Imagine you bought Apple stock for $200,000. That's the cost basis. It's worth $1 million. That's an $800,000 gain. Let's assume you bought Microsoft for $150,000. Now it's worth $800,000. That's a $650,000 gain. Let's assume you bought Amazon for $700,000. Sorry, you bought Amazon for $100,000 cost basis. It's worth $700,000. Unrealized gain $600,000. And then just assume you have a bunch of other positions with $2.5 million with various gains. Just making it flexible, 5 million portfolio, 3 big winners and a bunch of others just fluctuating. Now let's assume that's your portfolio that you want to create income from. You are going to need to go sell something to raise cash so you can live. That's how this works. So let's assume you just went and sold 30% of each position. The realized gains would be 240,000 plus 195 plus 180, so 615,000 of gains. The tax impact, assuming 20% capital gains, highest bracket, plus net investment income tax of 3.8 means 23.8% would be your tax impact. That's just federal. Now that's what most people do. They have Microsoft or Apple or Amazon, they go sell it and they pay 23.8% plus state taxes on top of that, and that's how they create income. But what if we had an SMA? With an SMA, you can do 3 really important things. Number 1, you can identify specific lots. So when you sell it, you're basically minimizing the tax impact versus when you have an individual position or a mutual fund, you cannot go in and decide exactly what you want to sell. Number 2 is you can actually harvest losses literally daily so that you can offset those gains. So if there are lots, for example, let's assume I bought Microsoft for $100,000 and now it's worth $1 million. But now it's worth $1 million and I decided to buy more Microsoft and it's not doing well. Some of it is just by the time I bought those new shares, they've been decreasing over the past 3 months. I can use those and sell them to offset against gains in Apple that's doing really well. So I don't have to go in and just sell the Microsoft lots that have done well. I can sell the ones that have not done well to help my tax bill. So once again, harping in on that kind of second quasi third point, selling specific shares to minimize tax bill, here's why that's important. What if I have some underperforming stocks? So I have some that have done really well and some that have not done well. I could go sell some underperforming stocks for 200,000 losses. I could offset that to 200,000 of gains, which you already know have hundreds of thousands of gains. And basically that's the equivalent of tax savings of 23.8%, which is the same number from before. Because once again, capital gains, highest bracket, 20%, net investment income, 3.8. So put those together, 23.8% on 200,000 that I now don't have to pay any taxes on. That's tax savings of $47,600. So basically, you are able to diversify and not have to pay any taxes, and I just created $47,000 of income. Now, there's still the fee once again, we have this custom bag, we have this product. That fee would have been $11,500. So what we have to do is subtract that. So $47,600 minus $11,500, the fee of the product, equals $36,100. So you're still netting $36,000 that year from doing really good tax strategy. Now, once again, I don't believe everyone needs this. I find that I have a few clients where this is a no-brainer and it really is changing their retirement. It depends if you have big, large, unrealized gains and you want to be more strategic. I will link in the description to some more resources on this if you want to learn more about this. Now, I don't work where I sell SMAs. I don't make more money if I use it or not. I don't care. I just care that my clients make the most money, and it's my job to come up with different solutions to help them do that. So what are the main benefits? You can cherry pick the lots that you want to sell. You can harvest losses strategically, literally daily. You literally maintain the control of the cost basis. It allows you to defer even larger gains indefinitely, because maybe you would have sold some of those so that you could create an income, but now we were able to offset those so your actual Nvidia position can keep growing even more. The value of this increases during more market volatility. So it's a really powerful thing to at least consider. You should certainly ask your financial advisor if you're working with one, and you certainly have big gains if they have not brought this up to you already. Hope you learned something today and that this felt different. If it makes sense, let me know in the comments. If you're like, no, I want to see a deeper dive, more of an example, always happy to do that, but trying to make the best content for you guys. See you next time.